You ever notice how someone really high status, maybe a famous CEO or, I don't know, a big artist, how their weird habits, or maybe just being totally disorganized,
Hmm.
suddenly get seen as like genius
Right.
or, deep wisdom, almost prophetic even.
Oh, absolutely. It's this strange paradox, isn't it? A real head scratcher sometimes.
Right, because the exact same thing in an ordinary person, say being late all the time or speaking bluntly,
Is just a flaw, a problem even.
yeah,
Might get you fired. But for the powerful person,
suddenly it's charismatic, eccentric, a sign of their unique confidence.
exactly. That status completely flips the script on how we perceive flaws.
Mhm.
The behavior is identical, but the meaning we give it, totally different.
And that's what we're really digging into today. We're doing a deep dive into this psychological mechanism, the halo effect, sometimes called hale adkisi in some research.
Yeah, we want to unpack how it warps our view of power, how it can actually mess with our own critical thinking.
And this is the really surprising part, how much it connects back to our own, insecurities,
Uh,
our own stuff.
our mission here isn't just to define the effect, like in a textbook.
Hmm.
We want to get under the hood, understand the machinery. How does that label, powerful, magically turn weaknesses into something magnetic, something charismatic?
And what does that whole process tell us about ourselves, about you, the listener, and how your mind works when observing others? Because it seems to say more about the observer than the observed.
That's the fascinating part, right? Let's lay the groundwork then. Where does this cognitive magic trick start?
Okay, yeah. Let's start with the source. The halo effect itself. People often think of it as just a bias, but it's maybe more fundamental, like a necessary shortcut.
That's a great way to put it. It is a shortcut.
Yeah.
The core definition is pretty straightforward. It's this psychological thing where one really strong positive trait.
Like success,
Yeah.
or being seen as powerful, or even just being very attractive.
Exactly. Any of those. That one trait causes this
Yeah.
immediate positive distortion of how we see all their other characteristics.
Regardless of whether those other characteristics are actually good or bad objectively.
Precisely. Reality doesn't get much of a look in once the halo is switched on.
I like the visual of a light circle, a halo. It's like success turns on this bright light around someone,
Mhm.
and our brain just stops looking closely. It doesn't want to see the shadows or the messy bits.
It's like the brain says, okay, got the main point, successful, good enough. It steps back from the detailed, effortful work of analyzing trait by trait.
Which takes time and energy.
Right. And instead, it just fills in the blanks based on that big positive signal.
Right.
And usually it fills them in favorably.
It's trying to be efficient, build a quick profile.
Exactly. Brain efficiency. If someone's a genius in, say, making money,
Area A.
the brain just generalizes. It assumes they must be great parents, wise advisors, emotionally stable, areas B, C, and D too.
Even if there's zero evidence for that.
Or even evidence to the contrary. And that's where you get these classic examples of distortion we see all the time.
Okay, let's talk examples. I mean, the messy tech guru is almost a cliche, right? The super successful founder with a desk that looks like a bomb hit it.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Your average person looks at that desk and thinks, wow, it needs to get organized. Basic, poor organizational skills.
But when it's the revered genius,
Then the brain does its reframing trick. The narrative shifts instantly. It becomes, oh, he's operating on such a higher plane
dealing with monumental, world-changing ideas,
that he simply can't be bothered with petty things like filing. The mess isn't a flaw anymore.
it's proof of his superior focus, his creative genius. It's spun into a positive.
Totally. Or think about how people talk. An ordinary employee who's blunt, maybe a bit rude, doesn't do the small talk.
They get labeled difficult,
Yeah.
abrasive, not a team player, a problem to be managed.
But you put that same communication style on a high-status figure, maybe a powerful executive or a famous artist, activate the halo.
And suddenly,
Suddenly, it's unfiltered honesty. It's authenticity. They're not rude. They just lack pretense.
they're too real for social niceties. And somehow we're supposed to admire that.
We often do. It gets interpreted as proof they're so focused on the important truth that they don't have time for fluff. Their success makes their roughness seem necessary almost, a sign of their power.
Okay, so the why behind this preference for generalization is crucial. It's about efficiency. The brain wants the easy route.
Yeah, largely. Doing detailed analysis, weighing pros and cons for every single trait, checking for inconsistencies, that takes real mental horsepower, sustained effort.
And the brain is, well, maybe a bit lazy at like shortcuts.
It seeks cognitive economy. It's much easier to just grab onto one big label, visionary, powerful, winner, and use that like a stamp.
A quick heuristic to judge everything else about them, good or bad, based on that one label. Fast decisions.
Exactly. We crave a simple, coherent story about people, especially powerful ones. We don't want complexity if we can avoid it.
But you said earlier it goes deeper than just mental laziness.
Oh, much deeper. This isn't just about saving cognitive energy. The way we perform this mental flip, especially glorifying flaws, it reflects something back at us.
About the observer.
Yes, about the observer's own anxieties, often in a deep-seated fear of inadequacy, a feeling that the world is chaotic and maybe uncontrollable.
Okay, now this is getting really interesting. Explain that connection. How does admiring a CEO's messy desk connect to my own anxiety about chaos?
Well, think about it. Humans seem hardwired with this profound need for order, certainty, control. The world often feels incredibly complex, random, scary even.
For sure, especially nowadays.
So when things feel overwhelming, we instinctively look for figures who seem to be managing the chaos. People who look like they're in control, who are succeeding despite the complexity.
And we latch onto them.
We latch onto them and we often elevate them. We kind of outsource our need for control to them. If they seem to have it handled, maybe the world isn't so random after all.
Okay, so by believing in their power, even attributing wisdom to their flaws.
We satisfy our own need for certainty. We reduce our own anxiety about uncertainty. It creates this comforting belief, okay, someone's in charge, they've got this. Even if they seem a bit weird, their success proves they know something I don't.
Ah, I see. And if that powerful person is obviously flawed, messy, rude, inconsistent, whatever, but they're still succeeding.
That's even more potent. It implies their success isn't just about following rules or hard work. It suggests their power is almost unstoppable, like a force of nature. Maybe they're just destined for it.
Which makes them seem even more powerful, and believing in them feels even safer.
Right. It gives the observer the sense of maybe false security. Like, if their success can withstand their own flaws, it's invincible. And if I align with them, maybe I'm protected too.
It's a strange kind of comfort logic. Their messiness proves their strength, so I feel secure.
But here's the really damaging part for the observer. This whole mechanism pushes you into what we call the comparison trap, a really corrosive psychological space.
How does that work?
Well, while you're busy admiring the powerful person's flaws, rationalize them as signs of genius,
Uh-huh.
you simultaneously turn around and judge your own normal human flaws with incredible harshness, brutal self-criticism.
Oh, wow. So the logic becomes double-sided.
Exactly. You end up thinking something like, my tendency to procrastinate is clear evidence I'm lazy and incompetent, proof I'm inadequate.
But their procrastination.
Their procrastination must be strategic. They're just waiting for the perfect moment, focusing only on the highest leverage tasks. It's a sign of their genius timing.
That's incredibly unfair to yourself.
It's deeply unfair, and it reinforces that feeling of inadequacy. The halo effect, used this way, becomes a tool for self-sabotage.
We need the hero to be perfect, or perfectly flawed in a charming way.
So we can feel okay about our own perceived failures to reach that level.
Yeah.
We use their supposed greatness as a mirror to confirm our own flaws. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of, I'm not good enough.
And this cycle of insecurity, it doesn't just affect the observers, right? You mentioned it fuels the behavior of the powerful people themselves.
Absolutely. Think about that drive for excessive outward show. Some translations might call it abartila gusterish. It's that desperate need to display status.
The flashy cars, the designer labels, the overly aggressive attitude.
Exactly. Often that comes from a place of deep internal insecurity, a lack of genuine self-worth. They know the power of the label.
So they try to buy it or project it.
They try to purchase the powerful label externally. They use these outward symbols, luxury goods as armor, power suits, projecting extreme confidence even when they're terrified inside.
They're trying to trigger the halo effect in others before anyone looks too closely.
Precisely. It's a preemptive strike.
Yeah.
Use the external tools as shortcuts to get that powerful label attached to them.
Hoping that label will then automatically reframe their actual flaws, the chaos inside, the fear, the character issues as charisma.
Yes. If I look the part, maybe my disorganization will seem like eccentricity, my anxiety like intense focus.
Yeah.
It's an attempt to get the benefits of a halo without doing the hard work of building real character or competence. Buying credibility wholesale.
But does it work? I mean, truly work?
Well, externally, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
They might fool people, get the applause, activate the halo in others' minds. But internally, No,
Because the performance doesn't fill the void.
never. It's just a projection, a show. The underlying insecurity, the emptiness that drove the performance in the first place, it's still there, untouched.
So they're trapped.
They become trapped in this exhausting, fragile cycle. They have to constantly keep the performance up, maintain the illusion, because if the mask slips, if the performance drops,
The halo shatters.
and they fear exposing the real insecure self they've tried so hard to hide, it's incredibly stressful.
Which brings us neatly to the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
The cost for the person wearing the halo, the powerful figure themselves.
Right. We've seen why we as observers project this stuff. But what happens when someone's flaws are constantly praised, when every stumble is called a dance move?
They start to believe it.
They often do. They start internalizing the exaggerated role the crowd has written for them. And this acceptance, this belief in their own hype, it locks them into a really dangerous psychological trap.
How so? What are the consequences?
One of the biggest is developing what Carol Dweck calls a fixed mindset. Because if even your mistakes, your poor decisions, your ethical lapses are spun as wisdom or part of the genius.
You lose the ability to be wrong.
Exactly. You become psychologically incapable of accepting criticism. Legitimate, necessary feedback feels like an attack, not information.
Because admitting a mistake would shatter the image.
It would shatter the whole edifice. If your status, your identity, is built on this fragile image of near infallibility, then failure isn't just a learning opportunity, it's catastrophic. It's proof the halo was fake. They can't allow that.
So, no mistakes allowed. But growth requires acknowledging mistakes, learning from them.
Precisely. So they become stagnant. They forfeit the right to learn, the ability to adapt. By refusing to see their flaws as flaws, they block the very input they need to improve.
In a fast-changing world, that fixed mindset isn't genius, it's a liability.
A huge liability.
Yeah.
They're basically guaranteeing their own eventual irrelevance because they can't evolve. They're stuck with the traits that got them the halo initially, even if those traits are now holding them back.
And does this affect their leadership, their relationships?
Profoundly. They start surrounding themselves only with yes men, with sycophants who constantly polish the halo.
Because honest feedback feels threatening.
It's like an existential threat. They lose the ability to tell the difference between constructive criticism and an attack. Eventually, they can lose touch with reality altogether, living inside an echo chamber of praise.
That sounds incredibly isolating.
It is, and that leads directly to this paradox of alienation. The Turkish sources might touch on yabankilaşma. It's this profound sense of loneliness despite being surrounded by people.
Why? Because the performance never stops.
They're locked into the performance. 24/7. They have to constantly manage the image, project strength, hide vulnerability.
And vulnerability is key to real connection.
It's the bedrock of trust and intimacy. But for the person trapped by the halo, vulnerability feels like the ultimate danger. So they disconnect from their true feelings, their needs, their fears.
So they experience that lonely in a crowd phenomenon.
Exactly. The classic solitude paradox. Everyone sees the shiny exterior, the success story, the powerful image.
But nobody sees the actual person underneath, the tired, maybe scared, imperfect human.
Because that person has been carefully hidden away. They're admired, maybe even worshipped, but utterly alone, trapped in a gilded cage they built themselves.
Wow. So what's the alternative? If this image-driven life is so fragile and isolating, what does real strength look like?
Well, the contrast is stark. True strength, the kind that lasts and brings actual contentment, it starts when you consciously decide to abandon that dependence on external image.
Moving from what you called image mode to being mode.
Exactly. In image mode, your worth comes from outside applause, titles, possessions. In being mode, your value is intrinsic. It's about who you are, your character, your integrity, independent of the image you project.
It sounds like almost a minimalist approach to identity, getting rid of the external clutter.
That's a fantastic way to think about it. Shedding the unnecessary layers of performance and external validation to get down to the core of who you are.
And this connects to vulnerability again, doesn't it?
Directly. This leads us to the heart of genuine, sustainable charisma. The courage of vulnerability.
Which isn't about hiding flaws or spinning them.
Not at all. Real magnetic strength isn't found in the person who successfully tricks everyone into thinking their flaws are genius.
It's found in the person who's honest.
Yes, the person who accepts their flaws, maybe even talks about them openly, with humility, who says, yeah, I struggle with this, or I made a mistake here, and then keeps going anyway.
That kind of honesty is disarming.
It completely dismantles the need for the halo. It breaks the dependency on external validation almost immediately.
How so?
Because when you own your imperfections, you preempt the judgment. You take away the power of potential criticism. Your worth isn't tied to being seen as flawless anymore.
It comes from inside, based on effort, integrity.
Exactly. Based on your willingness to be honest and keep trying, not on achieving some impossible standard of perfection. That internal validation is much more stable than external applause.
Okay, let's zoom out one more time. What's the cost to society when we collectively engage in this? When we glorify the flaws of the powerful?
The societal cost is huge and maybe underestimated. When we consistently excuse, rationalize, or even celebrate the bad behavior or incompetence of powerful figures,
Yeah.
politicians, CEOs, celebrities,
Just because they're powerful or successful?
we effectively sacrifice our critical thinking. We lower our
We
standards.
normalize things that shouldn't be normal.
We normalize poor behavior, manipulation, maybe even corruption, because it's wrapped in the shiny paper of success or status. We get used to bending the rules for the exceptional few.
And this makes us more susceptible to what? Control.
To manipulation, certainly. To excessive submission to authority. If we've already decided the leader is basically infallible, even their obvious mistakes get a pass. We stop questioning.
It's like a psychological surrender, giving up complex judgment for the easy narrative. The boss knows best.
And that surrender is dangerous. Resisting manipulation starts with insisting on critical evaluation for everyone, no matter how high their pedestal. No free passes based on status.
So, given that we all live in this system, observe it, participate in it, how do we push back? How do we as individuals reverse the pull of the halo effect?
It's not about becoming cynical or tearing everyone down. It's about fundamentally shifting how we evaluate people, including ourselves, changing the definition of power in our own minds.
Okay, what's the first step?
The first, absolutely critical step is practicing what some call distinction, ayert et me. You have to consciously fight the urge to evaluate people based on one single metric.
Like money or their job title or how they look, the things that trigger the halo?
Exactly. The halo wants you to generalize. Distinction means you refuse. You force your brain to do the harder work of breaking the person down into different parts.
So instead of just, he's a success story.
You get specific. You hold multiple truths at once. You say, okay, he's brilliant at fundraising, yes, and he has a terrible track record with ethical decision-making. Both are true.
Or, her art is groundbreaking, true, but her management of her team is reportedly exploitative.
Precisely. You compartmentalize. You separate competence in one area from character, or success in business from wisdom about life. You refuse the all-or-nothing judgment.
That takes discipline, resisting the easy label.
It really does.
Yeah.
You have to actively stop that single positive trait from blinding you to everything else.
And the other major shift you mentioned is looking inward, towards self-compassion.
Yes, this is arguably the most powerful antidote. Oz Shefkat, self-compassion, instead of spending all that mental energy justifying the flaws of powerful others.
Trying to see their messiness as genius.
Turn that lens of kindness onto yourself. Look at your own inevitable mistakes, your shortcomings, your messy desk, with some gentleness, radical compassion.
So accept my own errors, my own disorganization, or moments of saying the wrong thing.
Accept them not as proof you're fundamentally flawed or inadequate, but just as part of being human. Recognize the shared human condition. You can't despise imperfection in yourself while simultaneously glorifying it in your heroes.
That inconsistency is exhausting.
Incredibly exhausting. Reframing your own flaws as just human stuff frees up so much energy you'd otherwise waste on self-criticism.
And how does that help break the halo effect regarding others?
Because if you allow yourself to be imperfect and still worthy, you no longer need your heroes to be superhumanly perfect or charmingly flawed to make sense of the world.
You don't need their perfection to offset your own perceived imperfection.
Exactly. Your own self-acceptance makes you less dependent on external figures being flawless. You can see their flaws as just flaws. Not signs of genius, not reasons to worship them, just human stuff like yours.
This really reframes the whole idea of ethos, doesn't it? Trustworthiness, character.
Completely. True ethos doesn't come from the fancy title, the big bank account, the applause. It comes from consistency. From honest, resilient character that's been tested and admits its own limitations.
So real power isn't about masking flaws or controlling others.
Real power, maybe the ultimate freedom, is the courage to accept your own flaws and still choose to show up, to try to move forward every single day despite them. not needing to constantly prove yourself.
That freedom from the need for external validation, that sounds like real wealth.
It is that resilient action, that willingness to be seen trying, even imperfectly. That's the only light circle that's authentic. It can't be bought or faked. It's fueled purely by internal honesty, not external hype.
Reflecting on all this, what really hits home for me is that we often look outward for wisdom, especially towards those halo crown figures, trying to decode their secrets by analyzing their quirks.
We do.
But maybe the real wisdom isn't out there in their glorified flaws. Maybe it's in the much harder personal decision to just accept our own imperfections and keep going anyway, with courage.
I think that's exactly right. Your own light circle, your true aura, isn't powered by what others think or say. It's powered by your internal honesty, by the quiet strength of acknowledging your own vulnerability.
And embracing that vulnerability, paradoxically, makes you stronger, less dependent.
Untouchable, in a way, because you're no longer playing the image game.
So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. What flaws are you currently working really hard to hide? Or maybe rationalize away in yourself?
Yeah, that messy desk, that hesitation before speaking, that feeling of uncertainty.
What if, instead of hiding it, you tried accepting it? Could acknowledging that very thing actually become your greatest source of genuine, relatable strength?
That's the real deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Looking inward for that answer.